thriving online fitness business. I'm your host, Tobias Young. And whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, this podcast is packed with actionable tips, real world strategies, and the insights you need to crush your business goals and build the business of your dreams. Now that you're here, let's dive in. What's up, everybody? Today's guest is somebody who's actually been in the trenches. And when I say that, I mean like literally and figuratively, because Jason Meland is a former firefighter and his career was cut short and there was a near fatal electrocution we can talk about too. But instead of letting that like completely define his whole story, he used it to fuel to build something even bigger and better. And after leaving the fire service, Jason dove headfirst into the fitness industry, growing a gym in South Florida to over 300 members. But then, obviously, like many of us, COVID came, forced to pivot. And then Jason went all in on building his online fitness business. And what happened next was really, really wild. He grew his online coaching business to 100 clients in less than 12 months using nothing but organic social media. That means no paid ads at all. And now Jason's the founder and CEO of the School of Impact, where he's helped over 350 coaches grow their business using what he calls the in-demand coach operating system. And this is a method that blends messaging, storytelling, and scalable client acquisition strategies. He's also been featured on American Ninja Warrior, ABC, entrepreneur.com, and a bunch of other major outlets. And today, we're actually going to be pulling back the curtain onto what actually works right now to be able to attract high quality clients and scale your online fitness business without burning out. And if you've ever felt like your content just isn't converting, or you're grinding on social media, but you're not getting the type of leads or the sales that you deserve, this one's going to hit a little bit different. Jason's about to break down why it's not a volume problem. It's usually a clarity problem, and how mastering your message can actually shift everything. So let's get into it. Jason, welcome to the FitBiz Accelerator, brother.
Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here and to have an awesome conversation.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, me and Jay just rocked on his podcast yesterday, and we had a lot of fun. So make sure you go and check it out. And let's start from the beginning, brother. Like, you were in the fire service and you had a life-changing accident, and then you pivoted into fitness. Can you walk us through that journey and what that transition really looked like for you?
For sure. And I want to start off by just saying, like, if you're listening, you're watching this right now, before I even go into this, is we all have a story. And like, your story is truly your superpower. Your message is your weapon of influence when you know how to use it properly. And your unique perspectives, your wisdom, is what makes you different in today's crowded marketplace. And so I really want to unpack a lot of this and show you how to better infuse this in what you're doing already in your marketing and your sales process. But so yeah, I can go way back. We can go start from the very beginning. Like I popped out of the womb and I was just like, no, but yeah, my first real career was in the fire service. And I had come from a little bit of trouble, let's just say, a bit of trouble in my teens, leading into almost becoming 18. Got arrested, and I was like, I want to be able to not go down this path, and I want to go down a path that's going to give me a better future. And so I ended up moving far away from my hometown, and within about a year, I became a firefighter. And I worked in the fire service for about 8 years. And it was I think it was November 2009. We were going to a routine house fire. And while we were en route, we had reports of 2 people being trapped inside of this house. And it was an old school, like they would call like a trailer park, or the fancier terms is modular homes. And we got on scene, there's flames coming out of this freaking building. I mean, this house. And so I was a junior firefighter at the time. So I go and make entry with my partner behind me, and I'm on the hose line, and we're doing a search and rescue. and I'm crawling beneath the smoke line. It's really hot. There's flames coming out. So we're having to hit hot spots. Well, the engineer for the that's on the fire department team had shut the power off. But what we didn't know at the time was the people living there were stealing electricity from their neighbors. They had it wired in. And so here I am doing the search and rescue, putting out hot spots. There's water dripping all around me, and my hand hit a live wire and sent a 220 volt current through my body, out my back. The only thing that saved me at the time, because I was in a pool of water, was the fact that I had bunker gear on. And so I kind of go into a daze. Next thing I know, I'm getting thrown in the back of an ambulance and rushed to the hospital. They had to like hook me up with IVs. Basically, they said that my liver and kidneys were like shriveled up, and they looked like an 80-year-old man's, and I was in my 20s at the time. And I just remember, man, this doctor looking down at me, and he said, older man, like all I remember is like white hair, white beard, and he said, "Son, you're way too young to be this unhealthy and this out of shape. You're lucky to be alive." See, at the time, I was 53 pounds overweight. I was definitely not working out at the time. I kept saying I was. I kept telling myself, I was like, today's going to be the day. And I felt like I had a second chance at life now. I was like, man, like I could have died. And so I started to work out, didn't know what I was doing, to be honest, back then. But I would like run around my fire station. I was eating cans of tuna, and I started to like just shed out weight. And I started to train my crew members because they were all like, dude, you're doing awesome. And so I started to train them. And that's when I realized I had this passion for fitness. I was like, man. So I got in shape. I started helping them get in shape. And that's when I retired from the fire department. This was in 2012. And I ventured off, and I was like, I'm going to become a personal trainer.
Wow. That's crazy, dude. And then it all kind of like took off from there. But that was a life-changing moment. I think a lot of trainers, they get into fitness, and we get into fitness because something happens to us personally, and we feel like, oh my gosh, like I want to help other people either not go through that same thing, or there's something, somebody that's related closely to us that has a life-changing, alteration in there. Or maybe you were bullied as a kid and you're just like, that thing. So, I mean, it all happens for a variety of different reasons. So that's crazy, man. I appreciate you sharing on how you got started with that. And then also, you pivoted, you grew a gym too, right? It's over 300 members, and that's no small feat. But then COVID hit. What was the moment that you knew that you had to actually pivot to online?
Yeah. So we had just come over. So the road to 300 members at our gym was not easy, not an easy feat.
Yeah.
And so to give some context here, and I want to actually paint some lessons, whether you're still running a gym right now or you're already well-versed in an online business, like there's a core freaking lesson that I learned throughout the building the gym and even the pivot, to answer your question. But I had taken an abandoned hockey rink in South Florida, had a giant sinkhole in it. And so we had to get all that fixed. We turfed it out, and we actually turned this concept into South Florida's first and only, at the time, people have stolen our concept now from what I hear, but the first and only at a time, we turned it into an outdoor gym. And I mean, it was turfed out. We had a Ninja Warrior gym out there. We had, what we did is we got this like we got this like storage container, and we like painted it up, and we filled it with barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells. I mean, it had literally everything. We had pull-up bars installed out there, squat racks. I mean, it was cool in my opinion, and other people thought so too. And so we had thousands and thousands of people, but come out there during the 7.5 years that we ran it. And there was a moment. So now this is like around 2016. We were crushing. I had gotten onto a local television show called The Health Network down in Miami. And we were just attracting a lot of people. And one of the members of our gym, her husband came in, and he was just like, I would love to invest in this. He's like, we can open more locations. And I was like, I have the dream of franchising. And so like he invested a bunch of money. I took out a bunch of money. We invested in franchising it. Long story short, I'm over here selling like gyms. Like I'm Ray Kroc selling, like I'm selling gyms and trying to keep my location growing. I have a full team, full operations going, and we start to decline. Like I'm dumping a lot of resources and time into the franchise. I'm trying to keep my team happy. And like, I'm starting to get people that are disgruntled because Jason's over here, like living the dream. Everybody thinks like I'm so, and it became a mess. And little did I know at the time, I was a bit too immature for that type of growth. I wasn't not necessarily mature, but I was the typical entrepreneurial brain. And so if you have a brain like mine, the big thing I learned here is like focus is key and really dialing things in before trying to launch another venture, because it's a huge thing that I see a lot of people do. And so here I am going in debt. At the worst is about $45,000 in debt to try to keep my team afloat, to keep the franchise marketing going. And this is around now 2017 when my firstborn, Ava, my daughter, was born. And I'm over here stressed out trying to keep these businesses afloat. I'm in debt. I can barely pay myself a paycheck. Not barely. I'm just gonna be honest. I couldn't pay myself a paycheck at the time. And I just remember this moment of like, I'm sitting in my truck a few days after we brought my daughter home from the hospital. I'm freaking crying, dude. I'm gonna be honest. I felt like a terrible man, like a terrible human. I was like, how did I get myself in this position? I've got 2 businesses now that are like bleeding money. And so that's when I was just like, I don't know, I got to figure something else out right now. And this is, again, mind you, 2017. And so I start dabbling into some online stuff. I start creating this follow along workout program, which was crap, which by the way, I have 2 thoughts of this, but one is ask your customers, your best customers, what they want first, because none of my best customers wanted a follow on workout program. They just wanted more accountability. So second thing is to like go where the market needs something, right? In my case, the market didn't need a follow along workout program in 2017. Like that was when online, it was before the cool kids were going online, but there was still like, you can see like where things were going if I actually paid attention. And so around that time is when I started doing it. I started going live more. Facebook had just stolen Periscope's idea. And like, so there was more live video. And so I started going live and, fast forward about 1.5 years later is when I really started to like say, I'm going to sell the gym. We got it back profitable. And that's when like the pivot really started happening. This was now early 2019. We had interested buyers coming in. I wanted to be at home more with my kids, not running the gym. And we launched the online fitness business, I would say officially, like for real. Like we had a component going in 2018, end of 2017, 2018. But really in 2019 is when we started pushing it hard. And little did we know that COVID was going to happen.
Yeah. And
so, end of 2019, I was like, all right, we're about to sell the gym. I had interested buyer. And so I started pushing the online, and then COVID happened. All the buyers pulled out, for rightfully so. They were like, yeah, we'll circle back when this thing's over. And it's like, so I basically handed the keys over to my head trainer that I had at the time. I kind of stepped away from it and went fully online. And I would say we are already, again, running the online program in 2019, but I stepped away from the gym and went fully online in, I would say, like February 2020.
Okay. And you hit 100 online clients in under 12 months, and this is all organically. So let's not gloss over that, right? And what were the first 3 things that you focused on when making that big transition and making it happen in a positive way for your biz?
Dude, number one was just I had already, like, I'd served thousands of people, right? So I had a warm audience, not online. Like online, it was like I was going live and stuff like that, but I didn't have like people that were like, oh, he's an online. Nobody knew me for that. Yeah. But I did know that I had a bunch of prospects. So I went to my warm audience that of using a CRM plug and fit pro solution. Using a CR. I honestly went and I just like was like, hey guys, not sure if you're interested, but I got this like online fitness program that's gonna help you get these kinds of results.
Yeah.
Anybody interested?
Yeah.
It was like super basic stuff. I honestly like didn't have a big old grand strategy. And then I made one post on Facebook, and I give this strategy away. Now it's really simple. It's like, it's just like, hey, I'm launching this online program. I'm looking for case studies. I've got hundreds and I've got like almost 1,000 of them in person, but I don't really have any online. Who's interested? In that first 2 weeks, I booked 22 sales calls.
Nice.
And my online, everybody was like, you're supposed to sell high ticket. And I was like, I've been selling like $199 gym membership. So it's like, and so like my closing percentage sucked. I was like at probably 40-50%. So we signed up about 10 clients, technically 11 because there was a couple that came in. So it was technically 11. And I made my first, it was like 11,000 something and change in that first month. And I was like, oh, sweet, because the profit margins were so much higher than that. But you said the three things. So that was the first thing. I just leveraged my warm audience. That's it.
Yep.
And book calls, really simple. But what I quickly realized to get to that 100 clients was I was super inconsistent. Like I didn't have a huge following. I had maybe a couple thousand friends on Facebook and stuff like that. And my warm audience, I started to tap that out relatively quickly. People were like, all right, Jason, we get it, right? So it's like, I would go from some months where we would do like 22K. The next month I would be at 5K, right? It was so all over the place. And I remember just being so stressed out. And I was working with some business mentors at the time who were, teaching me sales system, teaching me content strategy, but I couldn't seem to like really crack the code. So the second big thing that I realized, and I think this is even more important today than it was back in 2020, is like the messaging and positioning of my offer and of my content was massive for me, right? I went from talking about like, I can help you lose 30 pounds in 90 days, basically like everybody else was saying, in that kind of weight loss niche, to really like locking in what was the main thing that I solved for myself that I feel really good with helping others with. And at the time, it goes back to the firefighter days. I had all this, stubborn belly fat, and I was able to get myself to an 8-pack. And so I was like, well, I have a lot of experience there. And a lot of my audience was like, when I was on a sales call or in the DMs with them, they were like, I just want to lose that tummy fat. I was like, nice. So I started to position my offer around stubborn belly fat. And so I instantly started to take the niche and go more into a sub niche. So, and there's a lot more things to the messaging piece, which we can unpack, but that was the second big thing, was the messaging and positioning of my offer and how I was showing up, communicating those words in my content. The third big thing that helped get to the 100 client mark was, there's probably more than three, but I would say like the big kind of needle mover leverage puller was having a well-versed acquisition system. So rather than just posting content and doing DMs, I just really made sure that I had some type of predictable system in place. And for me at the time, I would do what I now call a conversion content campaign, to where I would, like once a month or every, maybe twice a month, I would come up with a solid hook for like a masterclass or a live training or a workshop.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I would just build some content around that, promoting it. And then I would go live, and maybe for one day, maybe I would do a series of them. And then I would just have a call to actions on them. And I would basically be quote unquote herding leads into just a piece of video content, and then I would convert. There'd be a percentage of people that want to buy. And I just kept doing that, dude, rinse and repeat over and over. And when people were like, you should do this, I'm like, nope, I'm going to do this. And I just kept doing it until I got to the amount of clients that I wanted.
Yeah. And then you get really, really good at whatever workshop that you're doing in there too. And This is what I say. Like, if you're not already doing one-to-many conversion events, and when I say one-to-many conversion events, it means like literally speaking to many people and leveraging your time more effectively than like every single one-on-one DM, which is important too. But being able to do that, whether it's running a workshop, or whether it's running a webinar series, or whether it's running a 5-day challenge and you're getting in front of multiple people, or doing a scholarship program, like you have to be in front of your audience and giving more value than everybody else in there too. So I love that, man. And that definitely will help out, because I think people need context, and there's so many people out in the market right now that they need to see that you are the real deal. And they also have to resonate with you, and they have to like you, because people buy the coach because they freaking vibe with you, right? Because everybody has information, but it's like, hey, will this person help me sink that information into my brain? Do I like the way that they coach? And also, do I vibe with their personality too? So yeah, good stuff, Jay. And then, most coaches, they think, what? I need a funnel. I need a fancy logo. I need, 17 lead magnets. So what actually worked for you in that regards?
Yeah. So like I again, like most, I went down the distracted. I don't want to label myself. I just literally sent out an email on this earlier today, but like my brain can be very ADHD, and I could be like, oh, like I wanted this offer, this funnel, this. I could be, I totally go down that route too. Like definitely not perfect there, but what I found is it's really focusing on the fundamentals first, man. If I can go back to like Jason just kind of getting started in that online space, heck, even in the gym, like I would be like, hey, dude, focus first on the fundamentals. Anything that's not a fundamental, say no to. And a fundamental in an online coaching business, and this is just my perspective and opinion, I'm sure others can agree or disagree, but the first thing is you got to get traffic coming in. Like, again, warm audience is the easiest thing. Like literally, like if you're not building a warm or audience constant, like we all should have one, unless you're just like a human that doesn't have a personality and people like think you smell, but you should have people that already like you, so if you want to constantly be focused on a warm audience, but you want to have a traffic strategy. For me, if I'm not getting at least 10 leads a day, something's broken there. The second thing is really being able to have meaningful and high resonant content going out there. And so when you're a beginner, you're a rookie, it's just like going to the gym. You just got to stay consistent, do your best to find your voice, right? But like once you've been in the game for a minute or 2 minutes, you want to start to focus on like really honing in that message. Yeah. And a lot of it is, number one is, can you articulate your ideal client's problems better than they can? If you can, they're going to automatically assume that you have the solution. Number two, do you have some kind of unique way to communicate that within your content? Are you just saying the same thing as everybody else? Like, I help busy professionals lose 20 pounds. It's like, or are you saying something that's has some novelty, right? Like for me, I created the stubborn fat solution, and I had my own, I just named it, and I had my own things. Yeah. So having a unique way will help you create better content. And the third thing around creating better content is focusing more on shifting people's beliefs. You see, like, especially today, this is true. People can go into Google and be like, how do I lose 10 pounds? And like freaking, what is it? Is it Gemini, whatever their AI thing will pop it up for them, or they can go into ChatGPT or anything. So it's like, gone are the days when people aren't looking for information. Information is commoditized, right? Or I should say they are looking for it, but it's commoditized. And they're not on Facebook. They're not on Instagram to try to find out how to lose 10 pounds. They might be on YouTube. They might be on Google looking for that stuff. And so you focusing more in your marketing and in your content on figuring out what are those 1, 2, or 3 like core beliefs that if you got somebody to believe, they would automatically be more interested in your stuff. Like Russell Brunson talks about this in his Expert Secrets book called The Domino Belief. And so for me, back in fitness, it would be like, hey, all my audience was like, if I just eat healthier, I'm going to lose belly fat. And I was like, no, homie, if you eat right. They were like, what? I'm like, yeah, if you eat right, you dial in your calories, you have the right proportions for fat loss, you get foods that work with your body, not against it, That's called eating right. If you eat healthy, you can eat 600 calories of like lettuce. That doesn't mean you're right. So it's like I got people to believe what I wanted them to believe. I told stories to shift beliefs. I used metaphors that people are like, oh, that's what makes your content powerful. So content is a fundamental. The third technically fundamental is we talked about getting leads, traffic, right? You can simply Facebook friend request or go on podcast or run ads. It's easy to get traffic, meaningful content. The third thing is having meaningful conversations. Like if you could do this through the DMs, you could freaking go to a networking event, right? But getting into the habit of having meaningful conversations is so important, right? We're running coaching businesses. So it's a fundamental. We're in the people business. You got to talk to people. I'm sorry. You just have to, right? You can't be like I'm very introverted, but you got to get out there and talk to people. And then the fourth thing is going to be around making offers, right? You got to make offers, whether it's to masterclasses, to a lead magnet, to get on a call with you, to get into your program. You got to get better at communicating your call to actions, your offers to people so that they're compelling, so that they're enticing, so that, dare I say, irresistible to the right people. It's a fundamental skill set. And then the last thing is coaching. Like if you just show up and coach people well enough and like help people, like they're going to want to stick around. They're going to want to stay. So it's a fundamental of the business.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I kind of have a framework where I think about the 5 C's. Like, so the first C is always going to be, you got to make sure that you're having content, in there too, because you want to drive a lot of organic growth. If you're not, doing ads in there too. And even if you have ads, you still have to create content for the ads. It's going to resonate with your audience. So it has to be relatable. It has to solve their problem. It has to speak to one type of person. And like, what's their big problem that's keeping them up at night? And they're just like, shit, I need to get this solved. Right. And then obviously the next C is like, connections, and that's connecting with people. Yep. You have to build your audience and be able to connect with them. And then the next C is obviously going to be having the conversations. You gotta conversate with them in one way or another. Whether that's going an offer or just, having a unique conversation. And what happens when 2 people have a conversation on social media, whether you're booking a call or whether you're not, it's going to boost your algorithm in your favor regardless. So then, Instagram is going to say, hey, these 2 people know each other. So it'll start to show your content a little bit more in front of them too. And then that will help out book more calls booked. If you're doing everything right, is going to lead to your conversions in there too. So let's talk about the thing that most coaches are missing, which is their message. And you say it's not a volume problem, right? It's a clarity problem. So can you unpack that for them?
100%. So this is a huge lesson. This is like one of the biggest lessons for me, at least within my experience. So this is one thing I learned. So back in the gym days when I was franchising, one of the main things that so I hired a bougie franchising firm, and then I also hired a dude in the kind of gym space that had experience franchising. And one of the things that I learned back then was it was all about positioning, right? Because if you think about going back to the gym space to put context to why messaging is so important, it's look back, and this was in a book called The Blue Ocean Effect. But back when big box gyms like Bally's and LA Fitnesses and 24, you had all these gyms, right? And then you have oh my God, Curves. You have Curves come along, right? Completely disrupt the industry. And then you had things like Orange Theory and 9 Round and all of these other fitness concepts that came and completely disrupted the Curves type of model. Yeah. Right. And so there's always how you show up and position yourself. It's not necessarily about the model that you're teaching, but it's about the positioning these days. Mm-hmm. That's so important. And that's one of the huge lessons I learned when franchising our concept. And then when I got into American Ninja Warrior, one of the producers, the head producer on the show was I was like, hey dude, how can I get myself seen? How can I get myself, to a position to where they want me as a character on the show? And one of the things he told me was about your message, your story, how you show up, your character, how people perceive you. And that was such a huge thing. And I was like, oh my God, all of these things, they're pointing to the same thing. And so in the online fitness business, it's around that too. And if you look at now, it's like, again, we talked about information as a commodity. And so you can see that there's so many people that are doing exactly what you're doing, exactly what I'm doing. And so you have to be able to take what, like, your message may be like, I want to help moms or I want to help dads lose weight. Awesome. So do hundreds of thousands of other people, right? And so when I think in terms of messaging, the first thing that I want to get really, really clear on is, who is that dream client? Who is the person that, like, I wish I had 100 of them in my program right now? Because I can tell you from experience, when you are creating messaging for an entire niche or even a sub niche, you can bring in lots of different avatars, right? And once you have too many different avatars, it makes, at least from, again, my experience, it makes the back end of your program so much more difficult to scale versus if you create messaging around like one particular avatar, especially at the beginning when you're under 30, 40, 50K per month. And you start with like, what are the specific pain points, problems, like actual symptoms that are happening in their day-to-day life, right? If there was a video camera following them around, what are the things that they're doing? Are they standing in front of the mirror being like, oh God, like, you know, what's going on? What are they complaining about to their friends, to their colleagues? What are the thoughts that are going on in their head? What do they believe to be true? Oh my God, I believe it's my genetics, right? If you can start to come up with these things and you're literally getting into their head, it's going to help so much. And then on the opposing side, what is it that they actually want? As the the great Hormozy would say, what's the dream outcome? Yeah. What is that specific, tangible, concrete outcome that they want? What is the aspirational identity that they want to step into? Because if you're just like, I'm going to help you lose 20 pounds, that's great. But like, people are looking to, especially nowadays, to step into a greater aspirational identity. And so what is that for them? And then what is your new way? What is your unique way? If you're just like, I'm going to help you lose weight by showing you how to work out, fantastic. They're going to be like, I've tried that working out thing before. It didn't seem to work for me. It's like, why do you think people buy into like Ozempic or again, any of these trends? It's because it's offering them a new way. It's offering them a hope, right? And so we want to instill hope in them. We want to instill a unique way. And it doesn't have to be like all bro marketing. You could do it in your own way. Like, when I created the Stubborn Fat solution, I was like, what's the problem I'm helping people with? Stubborn fats. I was like, all right, I'm going to like sell them like what's on the tin, you know? So it was like coming up with this way. We do strength training to optimize your metabolism. We do flexible nutrition. And I came up with my own unique framework around that. And I'm going to help you with what I called inner sizes, right? We're going to work on the internal mindset. And so like, that's a big piece, is coming up with that unique process as well. And then the last thing I'll say on here that's more, I think, 2025 related is, if you can help paint the steps for people versus just like the big outcome. It's like, how many times do you see a business mentor online be like, I'm going to get you to 100K months, right? And it's like, oh, whoa, you know, that might be like a big jump. Or I'm going to help you lose 50 pounds. Awesome. But like, how can you show them the milestones and communicate that within your messaging? It's like, first, we're going to, you know, like, I'll say what's mine, because I say it all the time, so I know it's on my head. But it's like, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fix your messaging so you can start to get more of the right people raising their hands. I'm going to show you to say the right words in the right way to the right people, so the more of the right people raise their hands. You know, secondly, we're going to work on your content ecosystem. So that way, when you put the right words in the right content, then you're going to get more people DMing you. You're going to get more inbound leads. You're going to get more opt-ins. And then thirdly, we're going to put a conversion system in place so that all of the engagement and all of these leads, we're going to actually convert them. And then you're going to start getting to 15K, 20K, 30K, 40K months. Now they're like, oh, I see that now.
Yeah.
So like that's an important piece of the messaging as well.
Yeah, I love that. So you want to have a unique mechanism and have a cool ass name for it too. Like you want to have a sexy name for your unique mechanism that separates you from all these other coaches out there. And then just to recap everything as Jason's saying is have a step-by-step system, aka the 9-box system. The coaches in Elite know about that. So that's where we break it all down and go into a step-by-step process. I love it, Jay. And what are some signs that a coach's message just isn't landing with their audience, man?
Yeah. So this can obviously vary depending on the person, right? It's like if somebody's like, why am I not losing weight? I'm like, I don't know. Are you not getting sleep? Are you stressed out? Are you eating like an a-hole? Or well, there's a lot of different things that could be going on.
Yeah.
But typically it's like if they're posting content, they're marketing, they're running ads, and they're getting either unqualified leads, right? Because I've had influencers come to me that in the health and fitness space that have hundreds of thousands of followers, but like 99% are unqualified leads. That's a sign that your messaging's off, that your ego's on because you care about followers, right? But your messaging's off. Another thing is if you're posting content, you're marketing, and you're just not getting that much engagement. Like you're not getting people, and you're like, I at least have a few hundred ideal clients in my audience, but you're not getting any reach from it. Or if you're like literally asking people, hey, would you be interested in attending this workshop? And they're like, no. It's like that's probably a good indicator that your messaging's off. So like just looking for signs that you're out there putting stuff out, but people aren't really vibing with it, or you're just not getting enough qualified leads in.
Yeah. And you teach storytelling too inside the School of Impact. And I think storytelling is a major factor that I think a lot of people kind of neglect a little bit. And what does effective storytelling look like in a piece of content that actually converts?
Yeah. So you want to look at like, when and where to use it. So people like can overthink storytelling. Like I've told probably like, 6 stories so far in here within the content. So when I use storytelling, I use it to either resonate and relate with people. Right. So if I didn't tell a story about being a gym owner and being an online, you may be like, who the heck's this guy talking? But like, because like I'm telling bits and pieces of that story, you're like, okay, so I can relate to him. He relates to me. I resonate. So like, that's one of the reasons you can use story. And that's usually going to be your personal story or client stories. The other big reason to use story and how to use it in your content is to shift beliefs. So it's like, if somebody believes, for example, we'll use a weight loss example, that it's like your core audience is like, I've got a diet to lose weight. And you're like, nah. I mean, yeah, but nah, not like how you're thinking. You might share, you might be like, look, if you're eating under 900 calories a day, I'm going to walk you through why that could be destroying your hormones and metabolism and what to do instead. Yeah. And then you would basically use the story to bridge the gap, right? So it's like, hey, you may have been told that you're supposed to diet, you're supposed to blah, blah, blah. But here's the actual truth. And then you would be like, you have to eat right. You have to dial in your calories to your particular body type to be able to lose fat and weight effectively. And look, my client Holly, and then I might share a story about my client Holly, how she thought that. And then I would just walk through the details of the story, and they would be like, oh, right. So the story just helps them understand it, right? Versus if we just teach to them and we're just like, you can't diet to lose weight. Like they're like, it's like logically they get it, but the story helps them get it emotionally on a visceral level. Yeah. And when you're telling story, and this is something, again, I first learned from my days. And by the way, I'm going out for American Ninja Warrior 2026. Everybody vote. Everybody go onto my page and show support. But one of the things that I learned back when I was applying for the show and when I was on the show with the producers is like the power of story. And you've got to make it multi-sensory. You don't have to be up there and be like, get yourself into tears. That can help during certain times, but it's making it multi-sensory. It's really bringing people into the moment of time. It's getting specific, right? It's getting concrete with what you're sharing, and it makes it more relatable for people.
Nice, man. And you've helped now over 357 coaches and counting. My 350, isn't that a kind of gun? I forget. Anyways, a lot of them probably came in overwhelmed, stuck, or undercharging. So, what are the top, I would say, 1 to 2 shifts that they have to make if they want to be able to scale without sacrificing their sanity?
Yeah. So first thing, this is maybe counterintuitive, but the first thing is you gotta get your dopamine in check. Like I see so many people that come in whenever somebody comes to me and they're overwhelmed, they're no matter what stage of business they're in, like whether they're just trying to get off the ground or they already have something working but they're trying to scale. I find that like people are like so they're like so cheap dopamine susceptible, right? They're checking their Facebook, they're in their email, they're looking at their messenger, they're here, they're on this, they're all over the place. You know, especially if you have a little bit of a team, you're not checking your team stuff, you're checking your client stuff. And I just find that like, you know, eliminating distractions is the first big thing. Especially if you're like me and your brain is wired a bit differently. Like you got to eliminate, like I literally have I don't keep social media on my phone. I re-download it when I need it. And I have a dopamine, it's called the dumb phone. It has a dopamine detox on it. So when the detox is on, I can't log into social media even if I wanted to.
Wow.
When I'm working, I'm just focused. So like really setting up your environment, setting up yourself to succeed is the first thing. Because that will eliminate a lot of overwhelm and stuff right there. And I kind of went off track there talking about like this. So what was the question?
Yeah, what are 1 to 2 shifts that they have to make for coaches, without sacrificing their sanity, like if they're looking to scale?
Yeah, so that's definitely one for sure. And the second is to really lean into systems. Like having the right systems and infrastructure is so important, right? It's like, especially if you're a true-blooded entrepreneur and you can get super tied into the hustle and literally like your nervous system like gets used to it. And so like if you're not like working all the time, and you're not feeling that stress, even though it sounds weird, right? Your body can get so used to that it wants it. And so like really relying on systems. And one of my mentors said, he always tells me this actually. Where are you trying to out hustle bad process? Right. So if you want to keep your sanity and scale, it's just really looking at what Alex Sharfin would call the 5 core functions of your business: lead gen, lead nurture, right? So lead gen, are you generating leads? Lead nurture is, are you actually like, posting content, nurturing leads, getting more inbound inquiries? The third is conversion. Are you booking sales calls and closing? The fourth is delivery. Are you delivering results? Are people staying? Do they seem relatively happy with your services? And the fifth is retention and upsells and things like that. Are people staying, referring, things like that? And so it's like, I look at like, do I have a system around these 5 core functions? Yeah. Do I have infrastructure around them? Or is it me just constantly having to be in hustle mode? And if I go on a week-long vacation, shit's going to break. Like, you got to get systems and processes in place for each one of those things. Otherwise, you're always going to be stuck in hustle, burnout, overwhelm, and you'll never grow from experience. I'm telling you from experience.
Yeah, me too, man. Systems has been one of my biggest game changers that's really helped me with my business. And I learned a lot of it from, managing corporate gyms for many, many years, and not having those systems. When you first try to go online, you're going to be stressed out, man. You're going to have a million sticky notes all over your desk. You're going to be like, oh shit, I forgot to follow up with them. Oh, I didn't ask for a referral. I didn't ask for a testimonial. Like when you build out systems, it like literally does all the heavy lifting for you. And that's why we created FitPro Solution. Little plug. Ha! Just kidding. But yeah, and then just doing little things like following up with former clients. Like most coaches forget about the little things like that. So having a system that either reminds you or does it for you, and then just your onboarding process has to be really, really good, because A lot of people have shitty systems with onboarding. They're like, here's your login. Go find your workouts and nutrition. Let me know if you have any questions. And they're like, if they have a bad experience when they're like logging in, for their training app and all that stuff, they're going to drop off. You're going to have a really high turnover, and your lifetime value of your clients is going to drop down, and you're going to have to constantly be on hustle mode. Whereas if you just focus on delivering an amazing experience for your clients, where they know exactly what to do, what to expect, how to get support, where to go, what expectations are on both sides, like they're going to stay with you for a very, very long time. Right. And that's ultimately what you want to do. And then build out like an ecosystem of monthly recurring revenue. I love, right? Because then you're not having to constantly go paid in full to just get money on the table. You can focus on having just your monthly offer where, every single month you got 20 grand coming in or 30 grand or wherever stage that you're at, coming in every single month, which is nice. And then anything that you get as far as new blood is just like icing on the cake. And you just slowly grow that bad boy up to whatever you want to do. So Jay, break down the in-demand coach operating system. So what makes it different and how does it help coaches get real results?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not different. I don't know. It just, it comes from my experience. That's all. It's like that whenever creating anything, your IP, it's just taking your experience and putting it into something that works. Mm-hmm. And so the in-demand coach operating system is the first major piece of this thing. And this is an operating system that, at least from working experience with people in my own brands, being able to get somebody from, typically doing like 5 to 15K up to 30 to 100K. And the first thing is around messaging. I call it the magic messaging makeover. And this is where, in a nutshell, I always run people through a makeover process where I get onto a call with them and literally just help them make over their entire messaging. We overhaul all the things they're doing within their content, their ads, whatever they're running. And we throw away the words that don't work. We keep the words that do work, and we make sure we add and reorder the words that are going to help them get either more market positioning, better market positioning, so they have a better market to message match, and so that they can start getting more of the right people reaching out to them whenever they're posting content or doing ads, right? That's the first major thing. Say the right words in the right way to the right people, and that's what magic messaging is. The second thing is what I call a strategic content ecosystem. And so, man, once you get in the habit of like posting content and stuff like that, you could be on a hamster wheel forever. And so what I've learned is that when I take like a top of funnel platform, like Facebook for me, for others, it's Instagram. And then I combine it with a middle of funnel platform like email. And so I basically take my best content and I put it in email. And then a long form platform like YouTube. I've done YouTube and podcasts for years now. And then I'm basically only focused on one channel, right? But I'm funneling, I'm say like my Facebook audience, I am basically promoting my YouTubes to my Facebook audience and to my email list.
Yeah.
And it creates this like ecosystem, right? And so with the strategic content ecosystem, it's about getting the right messaging and having a system that you can plug that messaging into constantly to nurture your audience, to build relationships, to give people wins, to really demonstrate value, to shift people's beliefs. And then we put a further enhance the system by putting what I call a conversion content campaign once a month. And this is a systematic way to be able to drive people to some kind of masterclass, workshop, promotion, something like that, so that you have a predictable way to bring higher intent people that are interested in a hot topic that's related to your offer to somewhere where you can deliver value to them, right? And that brings us into the third piece, which is the value first conversion process. And so really simply, I believe I'm against aggressive tactics. If you're doing aggressive tactics, that's freaking okay. Do you? For me, it's just not how my brain operates. Like I can't do the 100 DMs a day thing personally. Does it work? Of course. Everything works. I can't. It's just the way it's not me. I used to door-to-door knock. those days are over for me. I put in the reps. Those days are over.
Yeah.
And so I just like to show up and give value, right? Via the workshops. And then I will make a very soft invite. Hey, if you want to learn more, come in. Like, I am not for most people, but I am for some of the right people. And the right people will be like, I'm interested. And then I'll have a quick conversation, maybe get onto a call with them, see if it's a right fit, give more value. I don't do traditional sales calls personally. I just give value. I believe, and this comes from the book, The Prosperous Coach.
Okay.
Where it's like, I just coach people. And if they're like, hey, I want more coaching, I'm like, sweet, this is how we do it. Not saying that anybody has to do it that way. This is how I do it.
Yeah.
And then the fourth piece of this operating system is the scale and freedom formula. It's just my fancy way of saying, you got to start building SOPs. You got to start building systems and infrastructure so you're able to actually scale these processes up.
Nice. No, I love it, man. Good stuff. Now, what I like to do is what's called a lightning round. I'm sure you heard of a lightning round. It's where we're going to go with just some quick little,
I got the
bam! Look at the lightning bolts coming from his veins, vascularity. So what I'll do is just ask you a quick question. You can just pop it in real quick, and then we'll just go through about 5 of these, right? So number 1, Jason, what's one piece of content every coach should post this week?
Belief shifting.
All right. Number 2, what's a limiting belief you had to let go of in order to grow your business?
Whew. There might be some thunder with this round. That a limiting belief that I had to let go, that I already have the authority, that like I don't need to prove anything to anybody, that my story, my message, and my perspectives are already good enough.
Cool. Right on, man. Number 3, what's a strategy that's underrated but insanely effective right now?
Warm outreach, just continually building a hot list. It's like the whole 1,000 true fans concept. It's like, you don't need to go big and wide with hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, you can go deep with less people and just nurture and build a small, loyal following.
Nice. Good stuff. And then number 4, what's your content creation routine look like?
Yeah, so typically Sundays, my kids are playing, doing their thing during lunch hour. I sit down and I just pull up Airtables where I house most of my content creation stuff. And I just look, what the heck do I want to talk about? And what I do is I come up with a core weekly video that goes on my YouTube. That's like my pillar piece of content for the week. And that, based on that topic, I'm going to then leverage my content writing GPT, just did a really fire masterclass on, and I will help that. I'll basically do the video, get the transcript, and I'll have it basically help me create weekly content and emails from that one video. So pillar piece of content, I just see what do I want to talk about, and that's it.
Nice. Good. And then finally, your favorite book or podcast for coach growth?
The Fit Biz Accelerator.
Bam.
the School of Impact, my podcast.
Yeah. So make sure you check out his podcast too. And then Jason, this has been absolutely fire, man. And I know the coaches listening are getting a ton of value. If you're getting value, drop some freaking fire in the comments if you're having some fun with us. And then if someone's stuck, maybe they're posting, but they're not converting, or they're ready to scale, but they don't know how, what's the one message that you would leave them with?
Yeah. So really focus on the fundamentals. Like, look at how you could take your story and like really get good at communicating your story so that it's compelling, it's authentic, it's raw, it's real, but it converts. Your message, how can you really turn your message into a weapon of influence? I know that's a fancy little way to say it, but like truly, how can you make your message to where it literally influences people? It resonates on a deep level with people, and people, when they hear it, they're like, that's my guy, that's my girl. Nice. Right? And then thirdly, how can you just get really good at making compelling offers to people, like no-brainer, compelling offers to people? And if you can really do that and build systems around the fundamentals, you're going to be able to grow to whatever you want to grow to.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. And where can people connect with you, learn more about the School of Impact, and then also get plugged into your world?
Yeah. So if you're listening on the podcast and you prefer podcasts, you can look up the School of Impact podcast. If you like YouTube, if you like to go on the YouTube, just Jason Meland, you'll find my YouTube channel on there. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you could search me by my first and last name, wherever you prefer to hang out. You'll find me. Except for LinkedIn. I'm not really on LinkedIn much.
Good stuff, Jay. This was fun, and I hope everybody else had an amazing time. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in to the FitBiz Accelerator. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a tip or strategy to grow your online fitness business. And if you're ready to fast track your success, don't forget to check out tntfitprocoaching.com. Until next time, stay consistent, stay focused, and keep crushing it.